Hello, this is Tom Pritscher again with the series Meditation and Sacred Place. This is number 6, I believe. And the title of this one is The Shadow, or the Dark Side. And I'm getting into this now like I got into the advanced meditation, so you can sort of become interested and curious and want to inquire more from my necessarily superficial approach here, so you get interested in finding out more on your own. And what I'm teaching here is educational. I'm not diagnosing, prescribing, no, nothing like that. But I am teaching a method that I call, it starts out with somatic meditation therapy that we've been learning. So, the dark side. Well, I mentioned just recently about the difference between reality and truth. And that gets into symbol and metaphor. But I just want to get into the process of what happens is when we talked about the tears in the fabric of your being, and the mind makes up something to fill that tear. Well, when the mind makes up something that becomes your reality or your identity or the ego, that symbol that it makes up is a symbol of something else, but that something else is not there. And it is actually, when you emphasize what the mind makes up, you're repressing what's really there, or you're repressing truth. And how did Jung define shadow? Jung defined the shadow as the unconscious part of the personality. And not all of the personality, but an unconscious part of the personality. And it has two aspects to it. It can be good and it can be not so good. It can be, it can work against you. The way I say it, it can be your executioner or your teacher. And in the big bubble, now people that are just starting here, you have to really go back. This is a series, so you have to go back to number 1 of the series, Meditation and Sacred Place. And I think it's in number 3 of the series that I mentioned the bubble diagram. And also the eye movements and breath meditation, I think, is in that number 3. It's very important to understand how things arise in the mind. And this is a model that I use to explain very deep things. So I'm going to use it here again now. So when there's a tear in the fabric of your being, and the mind makes something to fill that tear, what it makes up is, it becomes your reality, but it's really illusion. It's not the truth. And what happens, if you keep suppressing the truth, it becomes the negative aspect of the dark side. There's a lot of power in that unconscious mind, and there's a lot of power for good. So, in other words, if you keep repressing something, the bubble gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and in the big bubble, it's your executioner. But through the process of somatic meditation theory and other spiritual practices and growth practices, we begin to experience that same impulse at deeper levels of consciousness, and no longer has it got us. No longer is it our executioner and then our jailkeeper. No, now it becomes, in other words, those things, it's controlling us. It's experiencing us, so to speak. And that's really stress. That's more trauma. And that's more repression of the truth. That's the biggie right there, repressing the truth, because you keep repressing it and it raises up in a big bubble and wants to be in control. But if you experience it at the deeper levels of consciousness, it can be your teacher. Just like anger can be your teacher. What is anger? Anger is just a sincere emotion. All emotions can be your teacher, or they can be your executioner. And so the importance of the practice, what we do, which started out with the eye movements and the breath, and having some kind of an understanding of the process that's going on, you begin to operate out of those deeper levels. So you are using these things in your unconscious that could be your executioners, but you're paying attention to them. When they rise up, you experience them, and whereas up here they're experiencing you, and that's not good. We would call that negative. But down here, that same impulse, it's your teacher, it's your ally, it's that's why I mentioned anger. Anger can be your teacher, because it sets your parameters. It says don't put your hand over the fire again. You can learn a lot from all these emotions, and these emotions have positive and negative sides. And what I'm saying is when you don't recover from these old traumas, which we're learning here how to recover, when you don't recover, you keep on suppressing. And then when you keep on suppressing and suppressing, they rise up in the big bubble and they're controlling you. And that's not good. Use your imagination and to figure out why that's not good. And so anyway, this is our beginning overview. Like the last time, remember in my face I had shadows because I wanted to talk about the shadow side. And the shadow side, or some people call it the dark side, is not bad. It can be very good because there's a lot of power there. And there's power there when you experience it, where the bubble is smaller, at a depth of consciousness, where you have a lot of your own power, awareness, and clarity. It's good. It's your ally. It's teaching you something. And listen to it. Give it attention. Now, remember what we said about the meta-hermeneutical martial arts, or the mental martial arts, we're starting to call it. What you defend against, you make real. So you're not defending against something when you're experiencing with it with awareness and clarity. You're not being aggressive, you're not feeding it, you're not suppressing it, you're just being aware of it. You're there. And when you're there more and more with it, whatever it is, at where the bubble is smaller, at greater depths of consciousness, more and more what's up in the big bubble, your executioner, becomes more and more your teacher, and the power and the energy that's there manifest as positive in your life. You know the old saying, if it doesn't kill you, it'll make you strong. That was, I think Nietzsche said that in his introduction to Thus Spake Zarathustra. And so when you recover from stress and trauma, you get strong. And that's the beauty of all this. That's really beautiful. So don't be afraid of the dark side, because the dark is what you're suppressing. There's a lot of reasons why you do that. But now, when you begin to deepen your level of consciousness and you begin to experience these things as opposed to them experiencing you. And I have a lot I want to say, but I'm keeping these short so they fit on YouTube. And there's a lot more that I want to say. But the important thing is to do the practice. The intellectual side that we're talking about here, it helps, it gives you an understanding, and hopefully it's motivating you to go on and to find some other practice, find a teacher. What we're talking about here is just, it's a good start to get you interested, but go into it deeper. I can take you deeper. Keep watching these videos, but whatever your practice, whatever your religion is, be better at it. Get to the depth of it, because that's where your power is. Where the bubble is smaller, you're closer to your source, and you experience that presence. So that's sacred place at the depth. Where the bubble is smaller, you have more, you feel more of the effects of a sacred place. And jail is not a sacred place. Or when you're on the guillotine, the executioner, that's not sacred place. But when you honor it, when you pay attention to the dark, it reveals itself as a teacher and energy to accomplish things in your life. Just like, well, because I mentioned anger. Anger can give you a lot of energy. It can motivate you. But that's anger in a good way. So, now, thank you very much. And we're just going to keep on going on.